Hello, and welcome to my channel. Welcome back. This is Northstar. I hope you're well, are taking care of each other, and being kind to yourselves. Twitch stream manager is bugging out again. Hold on a moment, folks. But while that's going on, this isn't really a play session so much as a little more prep for the coming multiplayer stream with Joe. There's a bunch of focus tree interactions, and if I'm going to be switching to having Joe play as England, because he really wants to play as a major, and playing as Norway, not the big Norway here on the map. Oh, come on. Why is this so slow to load? Tiny, red Norway. The Norwegian People's Republic, the NPR, which is losing a civil war against capitalist Norway and Sweden and Iceland. Yeah, they bit off a little more than they could chew. They're in trouble, and they might even declare war on Finland. But I need to have some idea of what's going on with the focus trees. Yeah, they bypassed all this and grabbed decolonization, are we? Naval rearmament might Vickers experimental facilities. Yeah, I might suggest Joe grab naval rearmament as his next focus if he takes over the UK. But this is irrelevant with not having any subjects in decolonized. But let's see. I was gonna suggest you go the follow Moscow route and try and actually join the Norway's faction. Well, if I take over Norway, it shouldn't be hard, but I was not going to take them over immediately. I was going to play Syria a little while longer, get them on their feet. Because I've been doing the Syrian Socialist Republic here. Alright, so the conditions for follow Moscow is fully independent Soviet Union exists. So England can't be a subject. Soviets have to exist. This would It says Soviet Union rather than the Union of Soviet Republics of Asia, Europe and Asia. So this is actually the Stalinist instead of the Trotskyite one. But I'm assuming if Trotsky wins the Civil War, this would target Trotsky's Soviet Union. It is non-faction with Soviets, already at peace with the Soviets. If they are in a faction with Soviets, they bypass it. This doesn't have a bypass condition. Alright. Righty then. So here's the thing. This is Trotsky's Soviet Union. This is Stalin's. They're in a civil war. So I was going to suggest you join this faction, the Northern International, which after Sweden, Iceland are defeated, or probably also Finland, and maybe if Denmark freely joins the faction, or later gets conquered. Anyways, once one of those is in the faction with Norway, the faction gets renamed, and it gives a spirit to Norway that gives them free weekly manpower and daily communism support for entrenchment speed debuff. But the real reason to Joe would want to be in this is because there's all these things that give every member a bonus, like Northern Command, Army Organization Regain, Max Command Power Increase, Army Organization Regain, Division Speed gets this, and Air Experience Gain. Oh, just the Originator. Let's see. A lot of these only benefit every member gains Navy experience from a Naval Officer Academy. Some of these, yeah, only benefit the Originator. Joint Carrier Program. It's annoying, like the submarine only gives one dockyard, carrier gives two. So usually smart to do this even if you're going to end up building subs. This doesn't even give any dockyards. Bomber Command. Yeah, so political cooperation for the Originator. Well, most of them originate early, but a few of them, like the Northern Command, benefit the entire faction. Not as many as for the Central Powers. They have a shared focus tree. This tree was added later, and with Power Creep and Hearts Iron and DLCs, just common in games, just keep getting expanded. Like this benefits every member. This benefits every member. This benefits every member. This benefits every member. Like the Central Powers have a much better shared focus tree than the Norwegian one, but it's still a little better than not having any shared focus tree like most factions get. So, yeah, I was doing for the good of the revolution. The only thing is to fall Moscow, whichever wins the Civil War here. The Soviet Union basically would need to. I'm not even sure if it would work if Stalin wins, because this is a generic tag. It doesn't have the hashtag Soviet thing. I think Trotsky needs to win the Civil War for focuses to work correctly. Sometimes every target for original country is Soviet, so that maybe either work. But anyways, I think they need to be in the faction for him to still be able to do fall Moscow, and he needs that to access all this. I think it's all that if he's ever going to get down to Spirit of the Industrial Revolution, which is where he really wants to get. This will also allow him to build up Bermuda a little. He can get the war goal in the US, but not use it. This is invalid because Germany doesn't exist in this fragmented world, so the only way to get there is either go crush the dream or Soviet cooperation. He could do this. Trying to remember the council command for Ep11 just to test how this works. I don't know the traits of Rajini Palm Dut. I'm not going to be saving this, so. Alright. Let's see. Focus autocomplete. FA. Okay. This is obviously cheats, but this is to test how focus works. This isn't be saved or anything. Yeah, okay, this guy has no traits. That's what I thought. Rajani Palm Dut. So if he wants to, and ironically, he'd be approaching nations that are native to Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, and telling him to decolonize. How would that even work? That's probably bugged and could cause issues. But yeah, if he follows Moscow, he keeps the leader who's got the factory bonus. Here's Norway. I smell stink bug, and I know I didn't just squish one. What the heck? Sometimes the smell lingers. Building an independent Norway, Norwegian School of Economics. The AI will probably try to fund local construction, even though empowering large industrial groups would probably actually be better right now. If you control a bunch of states, this targets specific states, so you can get 3 factories, if I remember correctly. But if you're on your back foot and you only have 1 state left, you want the 2 build slots if you don't delay the thing until you reconquered everything. Mine laying and spy speed instead of this, which actually gives naval doctrine cost reduction, naval experience gain, and more dockyards in total. 4 instead of 3. Interesting. Anyways, looking for focus tree interactions mainly. This requires the end of the Civil War. supplies network. Right. Oh yeah, the plane design stuff. A mill or a sieve. Sieve is a more expensive thing and may actually be more useful for rebuilding after the Norwegian Civil War. Air doctrine cost or just some air XP and a research bonus. But the key thing is this was invest in airfields and buy anti-air from Sweden after the end of the Civil War, and if Sweden gets to be ideally like a puppet of Norway, a communist puppet, so it can be because you puppet a nation forces them into your faction. Unlock trait Beaufort's fly swatter for the artillery MIO, but also get a subsidy so you can buy some anti-air or towed anti-air from Sweden cheaper. And it's a bigger bonus to anti-air construction speed versus you do this one and you get, oh, no, actually, this is the bigger bonus. This just comes with a subsidy and a trait, but the trait's still nice. And the Civ for rebuilding. And the air bases. And traits down to this. I think devs love to give lots of unique, powerful stuff. This is only just a small attack to anti-air to, you know, the Nordics, because this game is made by a company that's based out of Sweden. Sorry, Sweden in particular gets some of the most powerful focuses. I have to focus autocomplete, and it, like when Twitch is open, it doesn't the screen doesn't go dead. They did this, and then I guess they, well, Jutland. Maybe no. There's no extra military factories. They probably added military factories that they lost. To capitalist Norway. That's probably why they have so many factories. 25 is a bit more than Norway usually would have at this point. But anyways, I was looking for interactions. So just gonna have a little bit of a tough time with the faction stuff, unless the Soviet Union, because it's too focused in the Soviets. Even though in all history you can have the Soviets abandon communism and stuff. If he joins the Norwegian faction, he'll never get well, he can actually do British Communist Alternative even if he's in a faction. It doesn't say. And this doesn't say not in a faction, just not a faction with the Soviets. Is independent Soviet Union exists is not in faction with them. Oh, so maybe you could invite the Soviet Union into the Northern Alliance. Okay, I see. That could actually be very good. This is why I do spend a little time looking at the focus trees, especially with how my long COVID affects my cognition and memory. So I can hopefully be a little better prepared for the multiplayer game. So Denmark did this, which Samar, whatever, if I go back to the I could have chosen to be a loyal vassal, but while I managed to retain a high level of independence, we are still merely a puppet. This does open up intriguing opportunities that are perhaps to align ourselves in the region People's Republic, take advantage of a stronger overlord, turn this defeat into victory. Could have gotten bonuses to industry, reduced war, lack of resources penalty, seize means of production, increased recruitable population factor. pledge allegiance, war support, seek military investments, key thing. And petition for independence later. Industrial investments, military investments. Can also claim Sweden from this. Get bonuses fighting certain countries. Interesting. Too bad the AI always loves to do this. Whenever they pledge allegiance to any kind of communist country, they almost always are plan to backstab them. Spain does it, or is doing it here. Denmark's doing it. It's just the anti-communist bias of the devs. But anyways, arm the resistance, sanction sabotages, resistance target compliance growth speed. They have a balance of power somewhere. They reduce political power but higher, faster construction speed and ideology drift. If there's more overlord influence. Secret coordinate strikes. They could ban fascism. Our Norwegian overlords see themselves at war with the fascist ideology itself and value your continued cooperation even more if we banned all fascist organizations in our country. Communism, fascism are arch enemies. Horseshoe theory is bullshit. Excuse my language, but it's an absolute lie told just to try and push anti-communist nonsense. Gain cooperative subject. Funnel resources to the Danish brigades. Army and Navy experience. The Commune of Anglia has graciously accepted taken and trained Danish troops that can assist in the liberation of the region and protect our Denmark when the time comes. But to make sure these troops have the best possible chance of succeeding, we must assist with money and material. Coordinate the resistance movement. Read something. Oh. They can, they do this, yeah, they can end up coordinating resistance movement. They can basically make it impossible for Norway to ever, say, build a collaboration government in this occupied area, or anyone who occupies these states for any reason, because the resistance target will be really high, which require harsher occupation laws, and compliance growth will be very low. Right now, military governor is necessary to keep resistance from growing further. And compliance is growing not all that quickly. Because the minus 10% growth rate of it. It's obnoxious. And, yeah. Probably asserting Danish independence. Declares independence. They refuse, they get free manpower. Move to collective military. It goes back to the warfare balance system. So if Norway refuses and manages to beat them, say if England has joined the faction, Denmark will never get its 5% war support, but it will get a spirit of 1,000 weekly manpower, which is probably much better. So ideally, you can get this war turned around. The smart thing would be to say no. If Joe's joined the the Northern International, which you should be able to do. Just sends it, and if I'm playing Norway at that point, just say yes, and he's in the faction. The harder thing is going to be getting the Soviets into the faction. Invite to faction. They're major. Both them and us are losing wars. If they're losing a war, and I'm not, I think it actually turns into a positive factor. Yeah, they are losing a war plus 15, so the minus 300 would disappear. So it'd be 5400 against. Civil War, they're major. It might be, I think diplomatic pressure would be necessary to bring them into the faction. Not be necessary for Joe to be able to access his fall Moscow path so he doesn't lose that leader. I figured as much. Let's take a look at Finland. Amount of things. I need to see who they are guaranteed by. England. Okay, so if Joe joins the faction, then any faction member can declare war on Finland. And the guarantee only applies to non-faction members attacking him. So, an AI, if it's left long enough, will probably declare this war. So it's which would force Joe into war with Norway. So probably be best to get England that faction fairly soon. Problem is I wanted to get things stable for Syria first. I chose to antagonize the Soviets. Eventually, they probably approach the United States when they form a faction, or do this: unite under the Northstar, create faction Northern Defense Front. Oh, that completes the form the Nordic Council. That's frustrating because they don't even have to have anyone agree to join the faction. They could just be a one-nation faction, and that would block it for Norway. And all they need to do is be communist or democratic. That could be a huge pain. Finno-Estonian Union. Finland's going to be problematic, unsurprisingly. It's practically designed to be a pain for anyone who tries to attack them. This guy, ruling party popularity, acceptance of communist diplomacy, gains trust from having support for democratic ideology, tries to crush both fascists and communists, which, it's extremism. It's always that. I mean, there's maybe taking things to an extreme, it's true, but the specific language is always just a little nastier than it needs to be because it's, stuff that was the U.S. went about creating all this anti-communist propaganda during the Cold War and creating language, and the Soviet Union was as busy trying to build factories and develop because they start with 1/13 of GDP per capita of the U.S. when the Soviet Union first formed, so they were, playing the economic catch-up game and didn't have the resources to spare with all this propaganda and stuff that the U.S. did. People are like, the Soviets put out poster propaganda, and it's like the U.S. had Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia, Radio Liberty, funded tons of fellowships in academia, basically biasing the whole academic establishment against socialism. Carry out McCarthyism. The U.S. put so much more resources into these things, and they could because, wealthier, better developed country. And the Soviets were developing, in fact, very quickly. Second fastest long-term GDP per capita growth rate in the world. But they didn't persevere long enough to catch up and, exceed the U.S. economy eventually, which they would have. Much like, this guy's wearing like a beanie. Interesting. Much like, China now has a bigger economy than the United States by when you correct for purchasing power parity. We got Czechoslovakia here, by the way, which is at war with the Central Powers, and has where is it? Czech socialism, communism with the human face, which historically Dubček claimed, but it really was a move away from communism and probably towards making Czechoslovakia socialist, and he was carrying out austerity programs, and the U.S. has tried to suppress, by the way, historical evidence nowadays. Under Trump's regime, there's been a lot more erasing of history than ever before about how Dubček cut the funding for welfare programs in Czechoslovakia. Like, if you Google it, the AI say he didn't cut it, but then if you put in austerity, they say he implemented austerity programs. Austerity programs are cutting welfare programs. Those things are synonymous. The AI will give you different answers depending on the words, but you can find little tidbits about it. Basically, the idea we had to cut spending on welfare programs because of trade deficits and government deficits. It's like, or you could tax the rich more. No, he was very much trying to move things in a right-wing direction. Dubček was a liar, which is the name of the video I did on him. All right. Anyways, the Central Powers here remain a huge threat. They're a threat down there to Syria. They're a threat to Czechoslovakia, Switzerland, eventually France, and England. If they, were to conquer all these other things, they might eventually threaten England. And they'd probably also gain the Belgians have gone fascist, are eating the Netherlands, which are also going fascist, but I guess it means they'd be a loyal puppet if Belgium didn't annex all of the Netherlands and left a puppet, but they'll probably just annex it all. And they should be able to actually core Luxembourg. Where's Luxembourg? Here. They have focus to do that. Then they attack France, and because they'll be at war with France and so will the Central Powers, that means Belgium will probably join the Central Powers. So between Belgium and France, and occupied France and Belgium, the point is and the Central Powers, might also be able to get some of these little German fragment states into their faction. I wanted to check that if it'd be under decisions. You couldn't even see a focus for it. Capitals can be influenced to accept our demands. None. Foreign influence. I don't see anything more. So maybe they can't do any more to expand the faction, or maybe they have to take a focus first. Well, scientific grants. Yeah, they're going to attack the Soviet Union eventually. That might bring the Soviets into a faction with Norway. If Joe joins Norway's faction, then, the Northern National would already be at war with the Central Powers, and the Soviets might join an existing faction. Annex. They want to annex Silesia? Right. Italy doesn't exist here. The war against the guarantors. England, France, and the United States. They're gonna go to war with the U.S. Okay, they're doomed. Okay. Unless they don't just run roughshod over too many nations first, they'll probably be stopped sooner or later. Trotsky is now doing social stimulation. Where is that? It should be under propaganda. Here we go. Addressing internal affairs. Agitprop. Under the capitalist system, workers must compete with one another in order to win their daily bread, while the factor is profit from the improvements the workers make that lead to increased productivity. Correct? This is wasteful and inhumane. A social system will allow those who are not yet the best the support they need to develop their abilities by learning from those who excel. basically government-sponsored apprenticeship programs, but there's less reason for workers to distrust helping each other, though factory owners have every interest in sponsoring such programs under capitalism. So they do exist in capitalist countries, such programs. They win, they do long live the workers' government. They could do builder of the Red Army, since Trotsky is their country leader. They might not. They could, though. The permanent revolution. Somewhere here is a faction. And maybe create. Here we go. Long live the workers' government. Okay, that creates the Trotsky faction. That's the right opposition one, which for some reason is visible. But anyways, so once their civil war is over. So if the Soviets get invaded by Central Powers first, maybe it'll be possible to bring them to a faction, or otherwise they'll be able to run the focus to create a faction the moment the war is over. So there'll be a very narrow window to try and bring the Soviets in. So diplomatic pressure will be needed. Okay, there's Finland, there's Sweden, there's Denmark, there's Norway. What's playing is Syria. Because Norway is so much in their back foot, for at least the branch where I play with Joe, and I'm going to do this multiplayer, if he makes himself available, I'm worried he won't. He'll just say, oh, I'm busy, so I may just... I've created the branch for picking up with Joe, 4th of July, 1940, and then I'll probably have to continue single player. But, probably they don't have much manpower available. Norwegian People's Republic. Syria's got a lot more. Core population 2.6 million. So yeah, I probably would want to play Syria and send lots of divisions here. But if Joe joins, he can start saying Lend-Lease right away to arm up all the Norwegians who, as scrape in the barrel against supplement, which the AI is dumb. It should have gone to all adult serve first and waited for manpower to reach the max for that, and then see, I don't think you gain recruitable population any faster by going straight to a higher conscription. I could be wrong. But yeah, with Joe controlling England, I'm sure he can send plenty of guns, and I can, as Syria, send some divisions here and then switch to playing Norway fairly soon. And multiplayer and single player, if I continue with Syria, I have no doubt Norway will lose. I could switch to playing as Norway. Maybe after I join their faction here. I can join their faction anytime. At least while I'm a player. They would say no if I were an AI. But I can ask to join their faction, and the AI might also not want to join, even if the other would accept them. So political correctness, indoctrination. It's going to make sure this political power these dump in my lap, these focuses get used well. The AI wouldn't. Let's create some special mountaineer artillery divisions to send here, because, you know, the combat's caught in the mountains, to stabilize this front long enough. Hope the Norwegians don't do any really stupid focuses, and then maybe eventually switch over to them. Load the game. I don't even need to use the council command tag. Just, yeah, by the way, this, if you use an alternate game rule setup, apparently using council commands is, like, that shouldn't be the case, for instance, with the Japan thing I set up before. See if that's different here. But, yep, you can see it's not, because this one I didn't force any weird game rules like a fragmented world. But with the Syria thing, yeah, the fragmented world means they can't even get the internal, never mind Steam achievements, which require Iron Man, but even the internal ones. Syrian Social Nationalist Party, i.e. fascists. The royalists, they're both tiny. Still some in the national bloc. Yeah, I was going to join the Northern International, join their wars, do industrial land appropriation before I cap out base stability. Turn some of that stability and some war support. The first time I do it, 2.5% war support. Second should be 5, I think. So we'll be down to 47.5% base, but with almost 20% gained. So it'll be just shy of 70% war support, and I can eventually import propaganda films to get that up to just shy of 80, and then as world tension goes up, it'll be over 80. So I should be able to get total mobilization. I don't think I can get women in the workplace. No, I can, because world tension will go high enough. You need 85% war support for that. I probably can only do 2 industrial land appropriations, not 3, though. Let's see. All adults serve, 70% war support, 85 for scraping the barrel as well. So there's really nothing you ever need more than 85% war support for. 80 for total mobilization, 85 for women in the workplace, 85 for scraping the barrel. So I should be good. I could have gamed it with starting a war very early. I started at 50% war support when world tension was low. If I, say, flipped ideology for civil war early and invaded Jordan, I could have war propaganded up to a higher. It didn't make a lot of sense taking, going communist via elections, not even referendums, just the scheduled elections, saved me political power, saved me stability. Ended up being the same stability as if I did a referendum because I got a negative event. I might have not rolled that event, or could have rolled 2 events, which would have been worse. You lose 5% stability if you do a referendum instead of waiting for planned elections, but I got an event by waiting for planned elections that rising class struggle, increased communism support, but reduced base stability. Fun. Anyways, I took the more stable political power conserving approach because I really need to build up Syria's industrial base. Norway is in both offensive and defensive wars, so I won't see any change to my war support when I join their wars. So is England? Wait, what? What war is England in that's offensive? I know they're guaranteed Czechoslovakia, but I think they should be defensive only wars. Why are they an offensive one? Who are the Brits at war with? The Central Powers were pure aggressors here. France is not. France. None of those are offensive wars in the Anglo-Austrian one. The game does this. It loves to suddenly consider a nation that's purely in defensive wars to be an offensive as well. I don't see anything that should have made England gain the offensive war debuff. It's just a bug, probably. Anyways, being in a defensive war early can sometimes be used to get like early access to total mobilization. What is it? Yeah, total mobilization. But yeah, I'm not gonna end up with that. So first thing, I guess, is I need to get to extensive conscription. I need to start training some mountaineer type units as soon as what I was going to do is add artillery, but this is more army XP than I have. I could start off by adding infantry battalions. It was probably going to be something like this. Eventually. Only 2 line artillery, and in fact this is a lower artillery ratio than 5 infantry, 2 artillery, which is still an infantry battalion that I was looking at for maybe using down in my main front area, but artillery is expensive. Probably this, so it's only 53.3 organization. The divisions like this are probably, it's 55 army XP, so I'll need a bit more. This is probably what I'll send to Norway. Don't have any more army XP drops in my lap from anything. Nope. extensive conscription, free trade, since I have no resources, and this will add to factory output and dockyard output. And make market construction boost multiplier goes down. Really? When you go to free trade, so exporting guns becomes less profitable under free trade. That's interesting. How does that work again? I think it adds to the like a 10% to the base construction line speed boost. Oh yeah, so it does make everything you sell have sold for effectively 10% more. Still, I don't sell that many weapons anymore, so I should probably do free trade. Since conscription, that's 300 poke power. I'm about to get 200, so that's almost. I can get both of those before I hand off in 20 game days. Basically, in 17 of this, and if I don't run any focus for a little bit, basically right before I even have to start indoctrination, I can get extensive conscription and free trade, and then there's indoctrination. But I was also going to appoint artillery specialist, and maybe if I can get an army logistics expert could be useful too. But here with Norway, and I'm going to cut this in a second. I'm going to probably go do some Hearthstone videos. If I sent forces and put them as expeditionary forces shortly before I swap to Norway, or even maybe more than shortly, they have better generals than me. So that would put my divisions under their generals. It would still get my national bonuses from doctrines and like military high command. So artillery specialists would buff the artillery. They would still get the planning from Grand Battle Plan, the defense from this organization, the max entrenchment from trench warfare. I don't think Norway even has any army. Yep, doctrine. So I switched in ideological loyalty as part of setup. Say I is stupid and will delay this, even though they went all the way to scraping the barrel. It's the only thing I went and changed. I did that. I originally recorded, but I'm like, it's the only thing I did. I spent too much time not getting anything else done. I'm like, I'm not going to upload this to YouTube. It's too much for just one tiny change. This is when I first started looking at the focus trees. But I was really tired, and so it was thinking and talking too slow for anyone to want to watch. Anyways, and that's preparing the ground for my swapping to play as Norway, because I would definitely run that spirit. I'm not going to be able to create those custom divisions by the time I swap off. Shoot, well, I can send some Mountaineer divisions anyways. Maybe like a 10 with Mountaineer, 8 or 10. It's better than nothing. Or a Mountaineer with support artillery. Can I get 5 more Army XP and yeah, I should be able to get 10 Army XP. So yeah, I can add support artillery. And probably long enough to add an infantry. So this would be an 8 with 3 Mountaineer, 1 normal infantry, because Mountaineers have less HP with support artillery. 8 with Mountaineers with support artillery, basically. And that's probably what I'll send to Norway and hope that I'll start training them, and hopefully I don't have enough time to train them before I swap off either, unless I wait a while. If I do single player in the single player branch, I just maybe have to keep playing Syria for a while. Norway just doesn't have the capabilities to. They have just a show 4 military factories and like no manpower. At this point, Syria has more factories, more manpower, is a stronger nation, so I'm better off playing as Syria for a while and hoping, and I'll be able to see if I join their faction what focuses Norway is doing, hoping they don't do anything stupid focuses until I eventually swap to play as them. So there's no way just sending a few Syrian divisions that'd be able to turn this war. And divisions do fight better in war territory. Eventually, I'll need to take over the Norwegian army. But yeah, Syrian help will have to do. Not gonna get any of these like war industrialist captive industry probably. This infrastructure will that'll finish soon. The other level might finish before I swap off, but not the factories. So I have to hope the AI knows to not. Well, it can't build factories here before it does the infrastructure, so I'm fine. I think it might cancel stuff in the queue when it takes over. So it might do some civilian factories in Aleppo, but that's fine. Syria actually needs a few more civ eventually with the resource shortages and needing to import resources. I mean, the dockyards are doing almost nothing because they have very little steel. And I'm going to be swapping to rocket artillery, which reduces my steel shortage slightly. I really do need 1 or 2 factories on resource imports, which means I only have 2 to build with. So yeah, I'll need more civ eventually. Swapping to total mobilization right now would reduce the number of consumer goods factors by 1, but as more get built, it won't make a difference. Interesting. So it's not really a high priority. The big thing is increasing conscription laws. The AI, of course, will probably try and go straight to service by requirement, or even an all-adult serve once joining the Norwegian War, which would be dumb. But yeah, in a game with Joe sends Lend-Lease, and as Syria start trying to get divisions here, I'm sure it'll be fine, and eventually I'll swap to playing Norway, because they have a focus tree, a real focus tree, and Syria is almost out of focuses to do, so it'll start to get boring. Plus, this is closer to Joe's territory, and there's a whole shared focus tree, and it'll just be better than him trying to cooperate with an AI overlord that runs the faction. And they'll probably do stupid stuff like saying, oh, okay, let's crush Stalin now. If Stalin wins the Soviet Civil War, then they'll try and crush him, attack the Soviet Union, which will not go well for the Northern International. Yeah, there's some good stuff in the Norwegian focus tree, though. There is. I fully to air support. Air construction or buy anti-air from Sweden. Radar research. Yeah, good stuff. Norway would be a little more interesting to play this than Syria, though Syria does have a lot of formables. They can basically unite all the Middle East and the Arabian Peninsula under their. So it's not terrible to keep playing them, and like I said, I'll probably 2 branches here. This, which I've saved and set up already, will be the one that I try and get multiplayer. It's good timing for Joe to take over England and start getting them on the right path because the AI is mishandling England very badly. And then he'll suddenly release Norway should last long enough for me to eventually tag over to them. And in this branch, I'll just probably keep playing Syria because Norway is doomed, and I don't think I can save them as Syria. Maybe if I do with a few divisions, and maybe I'll swap. But I presume there's a reasonably good odds that if only help Norway gets is some Syrian divisions, they're probably doomed. I might tag over them still. We'll see. Either way, hope you all enjoyed this video. Take care of each other, be kind to yourselves, and may you always find a getting started with Dome. Do check out my Hearthstone Let's Play series, which is going to be doing real videos, not just talking mostly, of next. Yeah, Jordan, which is going to invade soon. How much does it cost to justify a war goal on him? 22 political power in 110 days. I could do that uh, before I swap. Anyways, I wish you all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May you always find a guy and start a lead. Adieu.